Okay. Thank you everyone for being patient. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The date is Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. The time is 6:02 p.m. and I am calling this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. There are no scheduled hearings. Public input may be provided using the following methods as always: our email address, the number, and the Zoom information provided on our agenda. A recording of the meeting will be accessible on the Town of Dayton YouTube channel and also will be placed on Channel 9 for later viewing. And this meeting is being audio and video recorded and also streamed live on our YouTube channel. With that, I do want to do a brief roll call. Selectman Pacheco?
I'm present.
Selectman Goulart?
Present.
And Selectman Zagrafos is present. And our town administrator, Mike Mullen, our new town administrator, is here. I almost didn't recognize you, Mr. Mullen. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. And with that, I ask that everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and please remain standing. And give me one moment. I am going to display the flag. Okay. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
To
to
the
to the
the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice
for all. Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
since our last meeting, a number of our residents have passed away. Peter Cooney, Judith Berry, mother of our highway superintendent, Tom, John Kane, Stella Haskins, Lorraine Mendes, John Murphy, James Reba, Donald Scott, Thelma Sherman, and Edmund Swakon. And in their memory, I'd ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
thank you, Selectman Goulart. And as always, our thoughts and prayers are with their friends and their family as well. I would ask that since we have two proclamations on our agenda this evening, Selectman Pacheco, if you would please review the Black History Month proclamation, and Selectman Goulart, if you wouldn't mind presenting the Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week proclamation after.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The proclamation, whereas Black History Month serves as an opportunity to celebrate the positive and lasting difference, as well as the legacy of African Americans has made on behalf of our nation's cultural and political life. And whereas in 1926, Dr. Carter Woodson, noted Black scholar and Harvard graduate, initiated Black History Week. And for many years, the second week of February was chosen to celebrate the contribution and achievements of African American people in the United States, so as to coincide with the birthdays of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. Whereas in 1976, as Americans celebrated the National Bicentennial, President Gerald Ford urged the nation to seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor in our history. And for the first time, Black History Month was celebrated nationwide. And whereas the theme of Black History Month in 2021 is the Black family, representation, identity, and diversity, and whereas the observance of Black History Month calls our attention to the continued need to battle racism and build a society that lives up to its democratic ideals. And whereas the town of Dayton continues to work towards becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens, past, present, and future, are respected and recognized for their contributions and potential contributions to our community, the state, the country, and the world. And now, therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen from the town of Dayton, do hereby proclaim February 20, 2021 to be Black History Month and urge all the citizens of the town of Dayton to take cognizance of this event and participate faithfully in our observance. Dr. Brett Sagafis, Select Clerk Nancy Goulart, and Kenneth Pacheco, member.
Thank you. And I will entertain motions relative to the proclamation for Black History Month.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the proclamation.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
Selectman Goulart,
aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is an aye. And I did just want to thank our administrative assistant, Leanne Kerwin, and our executive assistant, Karen Brady, for excellent work as always on the proclamations.
Thank you.
Selectman Goulart, you have the floor for the next proclamation.
Do you want me to read the correspondence we got?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Conquering CHD, Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week. Dear Honorable Board of Selectmen, I am writing to you as a mother caring for a young child with congenital heart disease. Our son, Zachary, was diagnosed with CHD at approximately 22 weeks gestation. He has since had 2 open heart surgeries and will have a 3rd one this coming spring. I am a member of Conquering CHD Massachusetts, as well as volunteer for It's My Heart New England. Thousands of patients and families around the nation are affected by congenital heart defects, the #1 birth defect in the United States, affecting 1 in every 100 births. We are joining together to ask that February 7th through the 14th be proclaimed Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week. As a resident of Dayton and a member of Conquering CHD Massachusetts, our mission is to conquer congenital heart disease. We are accomplishing this through collaboration with patients, families, providers, and partner organizations to improve quality and outcomes through education, support, research, and awareness. I am requesting that you make an executive proclamation, sample enclosed, declaring the week of February 7th to 14th to be Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week in Dayton. I hope you agree this would be a perfect opportunity for Dayton to show its support to the CHD awareness effort by making February 7th to 14th a special week to recognize the 2+ million Americans living with congenital heart defects, to remember loved ones who lost their battle to CHD, and to honor the dedicated health professionals who work with our families. Dayton is showing its commitment to the well-being of our community's heart patients and their families. I know this may not be possible as it is arriving later than planned, in parentheses, recently had surgery. But if you are able to send the proclamation as soon as possible, we can further our plans for promotion of the proclamation and celebration during the month of February. Dayton's participation in this event will have a profound impact on thousands of patients and families. I thank you for your time and consideration. Respectfully, Brittany Wheaton, William Street. Proclamation. Whereas the health and well-being of congenital heart patients is of paramount importance, and whereas each year in the United States, more than 40,000 babies are born with a congenital heart defect, and whereas the medical community has identified congenital heart defects as the leading cause of birth defect-related deaths, and whereas medical research can provide more identifiable means of the origins and symptoms of congenital heart defects, and whereas there is no cure for congenital heart defects, and it is a lifelong disease requiring ongoing specialized care, and whereas fewer than 10% of adults with congenital heart disease are receiving recommended care, and whereas it is crucial that individuals planning a family, fetal clinicians, obstetric physicians, pediatricians, and all those in the medical field have a greater understanding of the potential for congenital heart defects. And whereas Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week provides the opportunity for patients and families affected by this condition to share their experiences and knowledge so that the general public may be aware of how this defect affects our lives. Therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen of the town of Dayton, recognize February 7th to 14th, 2021 as Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week and encourage all to join us in this special observance. And this is signed by Brett Zagrafis, Chairman, Nancy Goulart, Clerk, and Kenneth Pacheco, Member. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we accept and issue this proclamation as outlined.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? And I just wanted to thank Ms. Wheaton for reaching out to us. It was nice to hear from her. And it was nice to hear a little bit of her background and why she thought it was so important. And I agree. And I'm glad and proud of the board for acting on this. Hearing no further discussion, Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is an aye. And next on the agenda, and I apologize, I use an iPad, so I have to bounce back and forth. We have a 6 p.m., which, woo, we're right on schedule, with our fire chief and our health agent to discuss any updates we may have on, and state and local, with COVID-19 vaccine administration and distribution. And so I will yield the floor to whomever, if you wanted to give some general updates.
All right, I'll start. So, Todd, you are quicker than me. We are in conversation with a third-party contractor to try to get vaccinations to our 75 plus residents in the town of Dayton. Unfortunately, at this point, we have not been able to meet with them as of yet. I spoke with one of the gentlemen tonight, and he's supposed to get back to me hopefully tomorrow with a date that we can get together and have a Zoom discussion on what that's going to possibly look like and how to move forward with that. So unfortunately for tonight, I don't have a lot of information other than that. It is in the works, and hopefully we'll have more information in the very near future.
Thank you, sir. I did want to, before I threw it over to Health Agent Pilling, if you had anything, sir, that you wanted to add. I was speaking to our Council on Aging Director earlier, Mrs. Alice Souza, and we were speaking about the strawberry vine that's about to, it needs to be ready by, I think, the 15th for the next month. So Marches would need to be ready by February 15th. And so I did want to circle back perhaps offline with Health Agent Pilling and Fire Chief Chris McGee. I wanted to circle back on anything any helpful information we may want to put in the strawberry vine regarding local mass distribution sites. I know they just recently unveiled one in Dartmouth. And so I do want us to circle back on that in case there's any helpful information that we feel seniors who receive the strawberry vine in the mail, who may not be online, obviously on Facebook or following our meeting on Zoom tonight, may be able to find helpful. Sir?
Sure.
Yes.
Go ahead, Todd, sorry.
Okay. We've also been talking to like the city of Taunton, because obviously they're a bigger community, and expecting them to do some kind of mass vaccination to see if we can join up with them and regionalize. We're kind of talking with them to see what they need in order to make it happen from us, because it's not just sending our people there. We would have to send some support for them in order to run the event. So we're working on that now. There's also been a few other places close by that are starting to do the vaccines. They're not necessarily posted as mass vaccination sites yet, because right now they're in like a soft opening, so to speak, and they're only dealing with smaller numbers. Mm-hmm. And obviously, as we confirm that information, we will be getting it out. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had approximately 40 different people over the age of 75 contact the Council on Aging and the Board of Health asking, for information. We've taken their names and numbers, and obviously we'll be calling them and relaying that information to them when we have it. But as soon as we get better information, we can post it on websites, put it on the Strawberry Vine, do whatever to get it out there. But right now, we still just don't have enough information.
Thank you, sir. And I do want the public to be aware that the Emergency Preparedness Committee, the Pandemic Task Force, we are all in touch regularly, and these discussions are happening regularly. There was an issue originally that I raised about, when we did our FY21 budget, we obviously did not predict to have a pandemic. We did not predict to possibly need to administer vaccines. And so I did have a couple questions about the financing of everything. And after pulling the financial team together and having those conversations, we figured out that it would be possible to address the needs of administering the vaccine financially via deficit spending. And so that has launched further conversations, as Chief McGee has alluded to, regarding possibly contracting with a third-party professional organization that would be able to administer it. With that, I do want to go to our hand raised. Oh, Selectman Pacheco, you don't have to raise your hand. You have the floor, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, it's my understanding that NEMA and FEMA will pay, if we contract this out, will pay for all the vaccinations, it will pay for the inoculating the public. So it won't cost the town any money. That's my understanding. That's what Swansea and Somerset are doing. And secondly, I would ask, have we tried to get any vaccines yet from the state? Have we made any contact with the state? It would have to be the Board of Health that would do that.
Yeah, so the state is giving out the vaccines for free, and they will reimburse for costs associated with overtime to run the event. But I believe, and Chief can probably back me up on this, that the costs from insurance reimbursement would also go back to the state. Like, we don't get that money for those shots. No, we have not reached out to the state yet, because when we did the first round, which was the first responders, you needed to have a minimum of 200. The box comes in 200 doses. So if you don't have 200 to give out, you can't do it. So that's why we regionalized with Somerset. We have not reached out to them yet for the 75 plus or anything, because again, we still haven't established that that's what we want to be doing.
It's my understanding that in Somerset and Swansea, they each got 60 vaccines each for each town to give. So I'm not sure where that 200 figure is coming from.
For the 75 plus?
75 plus. Now, they're bigger communities, but they're only getting 60 each town at the beginning anyway.
Yeah, I know Rainham asked for 250 and they only got 100 delivered to them, so.
I was told that Somerset's only getting 100 per week, and that was from Chief Barrows, who's running the thing along with the nurse, Emily. So to answer your question on reimbursement, if it's contracted, if we contract with a company to come in and do it, that contract is 100% reimbursable through a FEMA PA. It would obviously be like Dr. Vizagrafis said, it would be a deficit spending. We would have to pay it out front and then expect reimbursement at a later date. And the deficit spending is approved by DOR at this time, so we'd be all set there.
Yeah, thank you.
And before I go to any further comments, questions, concerns, I did also sort of want to piggyback off Chief McGee. Part of these conversations that have occurred between the various pandemic task force, emergency preparedness committee, we do have to take into consideration the reimbursements, like the feasibility of it all. And to me, just thinking about this, like, we've never had to confront a pandemic before, but just trying to extrapolate further, to me, it makes more sense administratively to have a contract with a third-party vendor where we know the dollar value upfront and so we know already what we're going to be reimbursed eventually. Whereas if we go with in-house, now we have to deal with wages probably not being reimbursed, but overtime being reimbursed. So that's a bit of an administrative nightmare. And then you just have to deal with the regular staffing, because I want the public to understand that we also have to keep in mind the services that you expect that need to continue, that you all have grown to rely on. We can't deter and use all of our staff away from their regular jobs to do a vaccine administration, because at the end of the day, someone still needs to be answering the phones, answering emails, answering resident concerns. On some level, governance is a customer service, and that still needs to be there. And so I just want the public to be aware of the different considerations in these discussions that are ongoing. And with that, Ms. Juszkowski, did you have public input? If you don't mind just stating your name and your address, please.
Sure. Jennifer Dichkowski, 2414 County Street in Dayton. My question and concern is about our disabled residents, especially, you know, we know that the population over 75 is likely to be disabled, not have transportation, or need assistance with transportation. And I'm just wondering, the Commission on Disability meets tomorrow afternoon. And I'm just wondering what we have for an update on how we are going to be kind of tackling that as a team.
So this was a topic of discussion during our emergency preparedness meeting today, that there's obviously a certain percentage of the population that needs that help. I guess 211 at the state has abilities to transport people, but you got to figure out where you're transporting them to and make appointments and all the rest of it. But that the state right now is providing that assistance. Right now, the town is not offering that service to transporting people. Chief, unless you had something you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, that's exactly what came out of our meeting. And, you know, from what I understand that, I think the way that we left it is Mr. Gale said that he could help people out if he needs to. And if Todd has somebody who calls him and needs that resource, we can forward those people over to the COD or the Council of Commission on Disability.
Perfect. Yeah, I think my only other concern is dovetailing off of what Dr. Z said earlier, in terms of communication in the Strawberry Vine. We want to make sure that we're able to help with whatever communication we can, to get folks to be aware of the vaccine opportunities as they arise. So I just look forward to supporting that effort. So thank you.
Did anybody have any further questions? And obviously this is ongoing. We are gathering new information constantly. We are constantly in touch with one another. And we will continue to keep the public updated as our plans evolve. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Health Agent Pilling, thank you. And I saw Mrs. Grassi earlier. You thank her for me too, I hope. And Chief McGee, thank you. As always, sir.
No problem. I have to run. I have another engagement. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good evening. Mr. Pilling, as I'm thanking you, I just realized you have double duty. Do you have an update for us on the SRMP grant funds, which were going to be used, I guess, to repair the 2 roll-off containers?
I do. First off, I just want to let everybody know, because we're tracking the COVID. I don't think you got me on a little later. I just want to let everybody know that the numbers are dropping. I know you hear about it from the state, but the numbers for the cases that are coming in are much less than they were. We were up to like 51 in a week. We're down to like 16. So it's come way down. There are still people are still getting seriously ill from this illness, and it's still something you need to be aware of. So that's all. Just wanted to get that out there. Yes, so we received an SMRP grant, which is a sustainable, oh my God, material recycling program that DEP offers. So every year we do what's called retrack, which is a reporting on how much recycling and trash that we produce and what we have for programs. So because we have the pink bag program and we have a transfer station, et cetera, we get points. Those points equal money. We got another $5,400 this year. We're looking to repair 2 roll-off containers that have kind of rusted out and are damaged. So we need to like weld those up and refix them, and it'll cost about $4,500. With the money we have in the accounts right now, we have $7,000. If we take out the $4,500, we will still have $2,500 left in our account. So, but it's all grant money that can only be used for certain things, trash related. And we have a need to repair these roll-offs before they get much worse.
Do we need to act on anything tonight, Mr. Pilling?
Well, this is discretionary spending. It's over $1,500, so we're looking for the selectmen to authorize the expenditure. We asked for back in November for $4,500 or $4,600 for us to buy a new roll-off container, and the board voted it, but we still haven't, I believe, gotten the letter to authorize that. So we haven't placed that order yet. So hopefully we'll be able to do both of these all at once. So. Sorry, Karen.
So are we gonna buy one and repair two?
Yes,
Okay. Mr.
but right now,
Chairman,
what you're looking at right now is only to repair the two. You've already voted to buy a new one, so.
okay, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Selectman Goulart.
I move that we authorize $4,500 to repair two roll-off containers as requested.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is an aye. And we also received a discretion, oh yeah, triple duty. We have a discretionary spending request in the amount of $15,464.00 for trash bags, Town of Dayton trash bags. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Did you want to add anything, Mr. Pilling?
No, this will just wipe out the account on trash bags for the budget for what we have, but it will, obviously, we need to keep buying the bags to get us through. And so, yeah, that's why we're doing it.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I move that we approve the request to spend $15,464 to purchase large and small trash bags.
I'll second that motion.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
How many are in a case? How many are in a case?
Yeah, there are 25 rolls in a case, and there's 10 bags in each roll.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
You gonna roll call?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we could do it either way. Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco.
Aye.
We'll be consistent. Selectman Zagrafos is an aye. Thank you. Next on the agenda is public input. Does anybody have any public input? Please just unmute yourself, list your name and your address, and you may have the floor. Just be respectful. All right, there will be another chance for public input at the end of the meeting as always. Next, Selectman Pacheco, do you mind reviewing the scheduled announcements for us, sir?
Sure. Todd, are you still there? There's one of the items, Todd, it says that there will be no change in trash pickup next week, but I believe Monday's a holiday, so it's going to be changed.
Yeah, there is a one-day delay. There will be no trash pickup on Monday. Good
Okay.
correction.
Okay, schedule announcements. Town Hall and Old Town Hall are closed to the public. All in-person meetings are canceled. All committee meetings shall be held remotely via Zoom. All council on aging, prime time, and library programs that are currently scheduled at Old Town Hall will be canceled until further notice. The library will still offer curbside service. Payments or any other correspondence can be left either in the outside drop box located by the walkway at the entrance to Town Hall or the one in front of Old Town Hall. Payments may also be made by mail and online via the Town Hall website, www.dayton-ma.gov. Signage will be placed at all playgrounds. Do we know if that signage has been placed? I read this every,
It has.
okay. Signage,
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like an orange
Yeah.
letter almost, it looks like.
Those signage has been placed at all playgrounds, basketball courts, and the track behind Town Hall. Inform the public that the use of masks is mandatory. There may be a $500 fine for non-compliance. There is a change in the trash pickup recycling. Monday is holidays, President's Day. So each, if your day is Monday, you're delayed one day. Every day is delayed one day. So mine happens to be on Wednesday, it'll be on Thursday. There is a townwide parking ban in effect through April 1st, 2021. No person shall allow their vehicle to be parked on the street so as to obstruct snow removal. The town of Dayton's food bank distribution will be held next on February 20, 2021, located at the Town Hall, 979 Somerset Avenue, lower level as the drive-through. I just want to mention that our new town administrator attended the last food bank that they had. So thank you for doing that. That's it on the announcements.
You're everywhere, Mr. Mullen. I love it. It's nice to see have another town administrator who cares about the community. It means a lot to us. And we look forward to you starting, for anyone who isn't aware, on March 8th, sir, in your official capacity. The other announcement I wanted to make, and I apologize, I was late with posting the meeting information to Zoom. So I did just want to sort of recap what we just discussed with Health Agent Pilling and Fire Chief McGee. We are looking into contracting with a third-party vendor to administer the COVID vaccine, especially during the current period for the elderly, our seniors, and our vulnerable populations. We will be releasing more information as those talks continue. Next on the agenda is, and I'm going to mute this telephone number because I hear static, is old business. And under this, we do have an update on our conservation agents had an ethics decision per the request of the Board of Selectmen. We did ask her to get some clarification with the Massachusetts Ethics Commission. Selectman Goulart, did you want to read that? Only because I'll have to scroll back and forth. It'll take.
Certainly.
Thank you.
This came about because we had a site visit, I think it was probably November. So we were looking at the proposed changes to the driveway and traffic flow at the elementary and middle schools. And a question arose because our conservation agent, Mrs. Caldonia, had done some work for one of the engineering firms. So she was advised to contact the State Ethics Commission to make sure that she got proper guidance and didn't violate any of the state ethics rules. So the ruling that came down, this is not confidential, but I assume she gave us permission to make it public.
Yes.
Okay. Dear Mrs. Caledonia, this email is a follow-up to our conversation yesterday about the Conflict of Interest Law, General Laws, Chapter 268A. You are currently a conservation agent for the Dayton Town Conservation Commission. You asked whether you are prohibited under the Conflict of Interest Law from being paid by a private engineering firm, Zenith Consulting Engineers, LLC, to do wetlands delineation work pursuant to a contract that the LLC entered into with the town's Board of Selectmen to do an engineering project at one of the town's public schools. Under Section 20 of the Conflict of Interest Law, a municipal employee may not have a financial interest, either directly or indirectly, in a contract made by the town she serves unless an exemption is available. You will have such a financial interest if you have a compensated job with the town and you want to retain your financial interest in the town's contract with the LLC. The only exemption available to you is Section 20B. Section 20B has a number of requirements, and you must meet every requirement in order to use the exemption. One requirement of Section 20B is that the contract has to be made after public notice or, if applicable, through competitive bidding. For you to satisfy the public notice requirement, it must be true that the town publicly advertised or posted the opportunity to perform engineering work so that members of the public can apply for the job or be included in a list of entities / companies interested in doing the job. If you cannot meet the public notice requirement, you may not use Section 20B, Section 20B exemption, and you will not be able to do wetlands delineation work for the LLC. So Mrs. Caldonia sent an email to Mrs. Brady. Hi, Karen. I won't be able to do the wetlands work for the school. I have told Niles from Zenith the same. Please see below information, which is what I just read. So to avoid a conflict, she will not be doing work for the engineering firm. So they're going to have to get another agent.
Sounds good. Thank you, Selectman Goulart, for reading that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next on the agenda is Selectmen's reports. Give me one moment to scroll down. The first update I have, and I have asked this to be on the agenda, mostly for myself, so I keep making the contacts I need to keep the project moving and to bring it to completion. And this is regarding the engineering sign study that's required in order to complete the safety zone on Pleasant Street that the Board of Selectmen unanimously voted for to establish. And it affects some of the other streets as well. I'm oversimplifying. I did reach out to our contact through Serpid at Mr. Luis de Oliveira. He's been really great and really instructive. He sent me an email when I inquired as to if there's a deadline or if there's a time frame where they think their study will be completed. Serpid's working with Mass DOT on this. And he wrote back, at the moment, we're consulting with Mass DOT for additional information and waiting on confirmation in regard to Mass General laws for safety zones. With the additional roads being proposed for the safety zone along with Pleasant Street, we wanted to make sure we are providing you with the correct information for the safety zone study. We're planning to have these details complete for you by the end of next week, which would be next week. So we may have an update for the public on this at our February 24th, 2021 meeting, which is our next meeting. The next agenda item under Selectmen's reports that I have, and then I will throw it over to Selectman Pacheco and then also Selectman Goulart if she has any further Selectmen's reports, was a report regarding the Old Town Hall camera system that the Board of Selectmen had unanimously voted to install. And what our building commissioner wrote after some further research is he walked the buildings with 2 vendors and planned to have a third through next week, meaning a third walkthrough. He received only 1 quote thus far, and it's much higher than he had predicted. It is, however, an excellent system that appears to exceed our original expectations, meaning the cameras that are hardwired. He said once he meets with his last vendor, he'll put something together so we can discuss. One of the things he learned was that the quality of the cameras themselves are vitally important and caused most of the escalation in costs. Video quality is sort of sporadic, dependent on price, and that's something to consider, especially if we want to use them to potentially prosecute any illegal activity. And Mrs. Brady, did I miss anything from his follow-up from earlier? Give me one moment. He wanted to add, nope, that was it. That was the whole thing. So he has a little bit more research to do, and I think it looks like he has another quote, possible quote to obtain for this. So more to come on the cameras, but we are making progress. I mean, it sounds like he's just tiptoeing the line between cost and video quality, which obviously, we want the quality to be good enough that if something were to happen and there were vandalism or a break-in, that we would be able to find the person and pursue that legally. Selectman Pacheco, sir, you have the floor.
Yes, I want to give an update on the Human Rights Commission. We met last week and the commission came up with a mission statement as well as goals. And let me read it to you so that you, my colleagues on the board and the public can know what they are. The mission is, the purpose of the Dayton Commission of Human Rights is to promote and protect the rights of all people. We aim to empower and build a stronger, more unified community that recognizes inclusivity, acceptance, social equality, and justice, and respect of all diverse populations. In our goals, we have 6 goals. Actively increase community awareness of possible human rights violations through education and community programming. Report human rights violations to the appropriate agencies. Work collaboratively with town representatives and the community in promoting acceptance and eliminating intolerance. Organize community events that foster inclusivity and celebrate diversity. To respect and empower all members of our community while ensuring inclusivity regardless of, but not limited to, race, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, socioeconomic status, age, and ability. And 6, facilitate an environment in which all members have the opportunity to contribute and thrive with confidence towards the principles of equality without fear of discrimination or retribution. So they spent a lot of time, this committee, as you know, I'm a liaison person for the committee. They spent a lot of time on this and made several changes. We spent probably 3 meetings discussing this and coming up with this. So I just wanted the public and my colleagues to know that these are our mission. This is our mission and goals. So thank you.
Well, I definitely I just want to thank you, Selectman Pacheco, and any members of the Human Rights Committee. I know I see Mr. Enriquez here. I just wanted to thank you all. I think that I'm really happy with them. Not that I get a say in it, but when I was thinking about the creation of this commission and why I felt like it was needed in Dayton, I feel like you actually have exceeded what I had thought the mission statement should be or would be. And I just want to thank everyone for their hard work and for stepping up. And I really think that this commission is going to be a positive force for change in the town for many years to come. So thank you all.
I agree. Thank you.
Dr. Z,
Yes, Selectman Goulart.
I've got two brief reports.
Absolutely.
Today was Mass Municipal Association. We have a number of new members, including the mayor from, I believe it's Gloucester. We haven't had a city official for quite a while. Linda Orrell, who is the policy director for trustees of reservations, they have filed a bill that relates to coastal buyback, and this is to purchase property in floodplains. There's roughly $50 million in bond money available. As you can imagine, it's quite controversial because people that own waterfront property, even if it's in a floodplain, usually love that property. And it's difficult to try to buy this property. And this all relates to the climate changes and the rise in the sea level. So that's been filed. There's another organization, BRIC, the BRIC program, and this is to remove structures in flood-prone areas. This bill has been sent to Senator Mark Pacheco and Representative Peake to see if they would sponsor it. It doesn't have a number yet, but again, obviously it is controversial because if you have waterfront property, even though you may be in a floodplain or hurricane zone, it's kind of tough to give it up. And right now there's no funding for this, but obviously the property would have to be bought at market price. So it could get quite expensive, but again, those are in the works. We briefly discussed the governor's revisions to the climate bill, and there was questions about the stretch code that was passed by communities so they could become, to get their green community designation. And they don't really think there are going to be major changes in the stretch code that would make it so difficult for communities to adopt. But then the other question was, if your community did adopt the stretch code that was in place at the time, and you get your green communities designation, does that mean you also accept all the changes that are coming, or does a community then have to act on any changes in the stretch code? And we didn't get a straight answer on that. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Selectman Goulart?
Yes.
Do you mind? I don't mean to interrupt and I apologize, but I'm actually really curious about this. Do you mind if I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
There has been, my understanding is, there has been quite a push in certain circles, not everyone obviously, to get the governor to adopt stricter stretch code rules, such as like net zero. And I understand that the sort of verdict is out on whether or not that means, if that were to be adopted, if he were to sign that into law, if that means the town of Dayton, which is a green community as of 2018, also needs to subsequently adopt that. But did they give any clarity or any inkling as to where they think it's going to go?
Meaning the proposed changes that the governor has now sent back?
Yeah.
No, and when you mentioned that about before his revisions were sent back, yes, you're absolutely right, because I got a number of emails from groups that wanted us to sign on as town officials and being on MMA to, in effect, urge the legislature to override the governor's whatever he proposed. And as I told you before, I don't sign on to anything I haven't read, number one. And number two, I did read a summary of what he proposed that was in the paper. And I can't say I'm actually opposed to some of the things he thinks should be changed. I think there has to be consideration of what he's saying. I think he is trying to come up with a bill that everyone can live with. Interesting thing was, when they talked about the stretch code and the proposed climate bill, it was mentioned that the town of Amherst passed a stretch code that only related to municipal buildings. Now, I don't know how that came about because I thought the stretch code was the stretch code.
And it's correct. Yeah, new residential and commercial.
Exactly. So that didn't make a lot of sense to me. The stretch code that we adopted relates to new residential construction, so forth, so on. So I had to leave that meeting to get to the Stormwater Committee. But the last thing they were discussing was, should MMA respond to the governor's amendments to the climate bill? So I'm going to get back to Ariella and just say, you know, I think we need to take a look at, the MMA committee, we need to take a look at what he's proposing. I don't think it's all bad. I'm not saying I support everything he wants changed, but if we're going to try to reach consensus, as opposed to just overriding his concerns, I don't think that's the best way to do it. So hopefully MMA will weigh in on it with some kind of, I'll say, reasoning. And I will let you know when I get some more information on that, what's happening as far as MMA goes and the governor's proposals. The Stormwater Committee met today. We have tentatively approved the Brook Street Solar Farm. And I did hear from Attorney Costa. And as I had mentioned before, what I described as a reverse easement that would allow the proponent to do some drainage work on town-owned land, the actual process is called a license. And from what Attorney Costa said, he's in the process of drafting language that will be called a license that will allow the developer to do the work in the drainage area under the direction and as required, guided by Mr. Ferry. And if the solar farm should change hands, you know, if they sell these things that seem after they get them completed, the license would go with that. However, when that solar farm is decommissioned, the land is supposed to be returned to its as near original state. That license will terminate because if somebody decides they're taking down, they're decommissioning solar panels and they're going to build houses out there, that license is not going to go to that next developer or owner. So the license will protect the town. We will continue to own the property. They will be able to do the work that's needed for that project, but it will not be an easement, and it'll come to the Board of Selectmen for a vote, like you vote easements, or like we do order of takings and you vote all those things. And after it's voted, we're pretty sure it's going to have to be recorded. The solar farm at up behind the Arujo Farms, there's more work on that because they didn't respond to the information that was requested by Mr. Pilling. And so there's been some discussion, and they're going to be working with Mr. Pilling and Mrs. Caldonia and Mr. Aguiar, and to get the information we need. And the other proposal that came before the town Stormwater Committee was the developer wants to finish Hunter's Hill. And initially they didn't think they had to comply with the stormwater regs, but we had a discussion and they understand what they have got to prepare for us. So we have the 2 solar farms and the expansion of Hunter Hill in the works. And so that's just an update of the main issues that we covered at the meeting today.
Thank you. Can I ask you another? I feel like I'm bothering you. I'm sorry, but I have another question about Hunter's Hill.
Yes.
My understanding was the reason that project was stalled, and I could be wrong, so I'm just asking for a clarification, was because there was an issue with whether or not the developer needed to create a, like, what was it, a wastewater treatment plant or a sewage treatment plant?
Mm-hmm.
And did that ever get resolved?
Well, as a matter of fact, in the layout, the plan he showed us, it had 2 colors, and the blue color was the one would be the expansion. And I asked him because I could see in the far top left-hand corner a sewage treatment facility, and he had said that that could handle 30 some homes. Well, they already built that number of homes. My question was, how are you going to provide sewage treatment for all of those, I'll call them the greenhouses in the green area? And he said that there's going to be some expansion there. But supposedly in the plan, and we will have that information, that there is provision to expand what they have. I think it's going to be interesting because I don't think we have any other developments that happen to have that type of disposal, because it's a Title V, which we all know what a Title V is, but then it's got a treatment plant attached to it. So it'll be interesting to see, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done on that before it comes back to the Stormwater Committee.
Thank you, Selectman Goulart. Sir, Mr. Pacheco, sir, you have the floor. You're
Oh.
muted.
You mean Joe?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Joe Pacheco, yes, sir.
I think if you look at the agreement on Hunter's Hill, after 30 houses, they're supposed to install a sewer treatment plant.
Correct.
And there is another sewer treatment plant. It's at, on Dayton Woods, I think it is. That's off of Milk Street.
Yes, it is.
They have a sewer treatment plant there.
Mm-hmm.
And what they have at Hunter's Hill is a large septic system, but then each house has a pump that pumps up to the septic, but they're only supposed to limit that to 30 houses and then put in a sewer treatment plant.
Yeah, and that's what they told us today, that any expansion of building automatically triggers that plant that you're talking about.
Yes.
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. Pacheco, as always, sir. I was your protege on the ZBA. I'm always learning from you. Both the Pachecos. All right. Next, Selectman Goulart, did you have anything else under Selectmen's reports?
No, that's it.
All righty, thank you. And next, we have to accept the resignation of our long-serving Sergeant David McGuirk. Give me just a moment. This was sent to Dayton Police Department, addressed to Chief Robert McDonald on January 25th, 2021. Chief McDonald, I'm writing to you to announce that I will be retiring from the Dayton Police Department. My last day of employment will be Wednesday, February 10th. I want to thank you and the various select board members for giving me the opportunity to serve the people of Dayton, which is a place that I call home. In my time of over 3 decades in which I have served as a reserve officer, patrolman, and sergeant, I never had a day that I did not want to go to work. You and I, as the elder statesmen of the department, have seen significant growth and change in the town as well as the department. We have seen dramatic changes in the job of policing, some positive and some very challenging. This decision is based upon many professional, personal, and family reasons. My opting for retirement is what is best for me and my family. I want to extend this thanks to all members of the Dayton Police Department and communications staff as well. In contrast to many jobs, we spend countless hours together to achieve our goals. I wish them all the best in the most safest and prosperous ways as they continue their careers. I want to thank you and all of my coworkers for the support, guidance, and cooperation I have received over the years. Respectfully, Sergeant David P. McGuirk. And I just, I wrote something earlier. I really just want to, from the bottom of my heart, it's been an honor working with Sergeant McGuirk over the years since I was elected in 2016. I mean, what can you say about someone who has given 30 plus years of their life to a single job, to a single town, to a single community? Is just a lot to look up to. And I hope that all the other men and women in Dayton Police Department right now are looking at him and thinking about long and prosperous careers in Dayton Police Department as well. And I hope that they look to his example and to our chief's example. And I really just want to thank Sergeant McGuirk for just decades of selfless service. So thank you, sir.
I would also like to thank Dave. I had the opportunity when I worked in the court to work with him. He represented the town of Dayton Police Department, and he was always professional, always prepared. in court, and I have a good relationship with him, as well as the court having a good relationship with him, and the judges always had respect for him. So I want to wish him well in his retirement. Hope he enjoys it, and we'll still see him around town, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Selectman Goulart?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the resignation for retirement purposes of Sergeant David McGuirk and wish him the very best with thanks and appreciation from the town.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. I just want to say, sir, if you're watching, I hope you are toasting to your career and your success, sir. Selectman Goulart, your vote.
Before that, I would like to make a comment. David, I like the term when you refer to yourself and the chief as elder statesman. I think that Mr. Ken Pacheco and I may use that as members of the Board of Selectmen. Seriously, Dave, I've said this before, and I will state it again publicly. Dave's father, Robert McGuirk, was my English teacher at Old Dighton High School. And it was my sophomore year. And the one thing he required of his students were you had to write an essay every week, 2 pages handwritten, but you had to write an essay, and you could write about anything. But he really stressed the importance of being able to write so that let's say it was a skill that was honed. He went on to work at Bristol Aggie, and I believe he retired from Aggie. But I can honestly say Mr. McGuirk was one of the nicest teachers at Old Dighton High. And people have often said to me and commented about my writing skill. And I say, well, that was Mr. McGuirk my sophomore year. So Dave, I hope your father's looking down proudly at you. And I will say again, thank you, Mr. McGuirk, because I really appreciate that sophomore year with you.
Can I add to that also,
Of course.
as the other elder statesman? Do you know if you probably had to write that in cursive?
Excuse me?
Did you have to write that in cursive?
Yes.
Yes. You younger people, that's a certain penmanship that you have to use. But his father and mother also was very active in the Dighton Historical Society years ago, obviously. We appreciate the work that they did for the society. So we wish Dave well.
Absolutely. Here. Selectman Goulart, your vote.
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco.
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos, with thanks and appreciation, is also an aye. And congratulations, sir, you certainly deserved it. Next on our agenda is to accept the resignation of Christopher Dean from the Human Rights Committee. Selectman Pacheco, did you want to read his letter?
Sure. He sent an email to the Human Rights Committee. Good evening. I'd like to submit my resignation for the Human Rights Committee. Good luck in your future endeavors. Thank you, Christopher Dean.
And I will entertain motions.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the resignation of Christopher Dean from the Human Rights Committee with thanks and appreciation.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Goulart.
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco.
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is an aye. Next on the agenda is to appoint Vignan Usa to the Human Rights Committee. So I will entertain motions.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Let me
Very
just,
excited about this.
yeah, I'm excited about it too. He's a great person.
Yes.
I also want to note that we still need one more member to the Human Rights Committee. So thank you.
Yeah, we should get back on the agenda. I don't know how it keeps coming off, but let's get, if it's possible, Mrs. Brady, if we could get like an updated listing of like where the vacancies are. It's like so hard to keep track, I understand. But maybe we could start announcing those at least once a month to keep it on people's radar.
Well, we can do that.
Thank you, as always, boss. Selectman Pacheco, your vote.
Aye.
And Selectman Goulart?
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Next on our agenda is to discuss vacation buyout. Before we start our discussion, I want to just apprise everyone of what this is. This item is not on the agenda to discuss a single person's vacation buyout. It is on the agenda because last year, the Board of Selectmen had to confront an issue where decisions had to be made because we're in a pandemic and people may not be able to use their vacation time, may not want to, I don't know, go somewhere because things are so restricted right now. And so we had to come up with possibilities and strategies and plans on how we were going to, if we were going to make accommodations. That is why this is on the agenda. It is, again, not for a specific person. It is to begin a discussion looking at the financial figures of what vacation people have on the books as to possible solutions, if any, to address this issue. So I did just want to be clear and set the scene before we get into the discussion. Now, as we see, bear with me just, Selectman Goulart, did you have something? I'm sorry.
So in column 3, 239,000 and change,
Mhm.
if no one on the list used vacation from now to the end of the fiscal year, this is what we would pay out?
Correct. But I did speak to the town accountant about this, and he said with every day that passes, the numbers change, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah, this is like a snapshot in time, I guess. But yes, that would be for like right now through
Okay, so
the end of the fiscal year.
like we had to do last year with really shorter notice, at least we got a little bit more time approaching this. Yeah, this is a good financial tool for long distance planning, meaning to get us through the end of this fiscal year. So yeah, I'm glad to see that, we have this in front of us.
Absolutely. And I just want to apprise my colleagues, I didn't put this on here thinking we could make a decision tonight. It took us several meetings last time, as I recall, to really get down to it. I want us to be thinking about this, and I also want our employees to know we are aware of this. We're not waiting till June of, the end of June 2021 to think about this. It is on our radar, and we are starting those conversations. With that, did my colleagues have any thoughts or concerns? Obviously, I'm looking at $239,000. I'm looking at we'll probably discuss this at perhaps our next meeting, but I'm looking at an increased assessment for the DR Regional School District, which is about $240,000. And I'm getting a little nervous because we've only got $900,000 in our free cash remaining. I say only. I know that's a lot of money. Please know that. But I view that money as like a safety blanket. I don't want us to, and we never have used it all. So I just want us to have those figures in our mind when we're thinking about tackling this vacation buyback. Selectman Pacheco.
Yeah, so that figure is going to change, though. It's going to be less because people are going to take their vacation. Some people are going to ask that 2 weeks be forwarded to the next fiscal year. So hopefully it will be less than the figure that we're looking at right now.
Selectman Goulart?
Yeah, but as I said, I think this is a great long range through the end of fiscal 21 planning tool, because as we look at potential, whether their budget increases because something has happened and we need to come up with money for in the next fiscal year, all the time we have this, it's like, has the number decreased? And hopefully, as we get into the spring, people will be able to take vacations, which will reduce this liability. But yeah, this is great to be starting it this early.
Absolutely. Did we want to have any further discussion on this? Do we want to take this under advisement? We could even, I'm sorry, I just wanted to add, I was also going to consider, Mr. Mullen, our new town administrator, starts March 8th. I know he is really well versed in finances. And I was thinking maybe we could just monitor this and then take this back up at our March 10th meeting, and maybe also have the town accountant there, and maybe they'll have a different perspective or some insight to shed on this for us, maybe suggestions.
I think at least a monthly update, the last meeting of each month would be good.
Mhm.
Again, because we're going to be going into budget season and we got to be thinking about that deficit we have, we've got to make up with the regional assessment. Certainly, this is an obligation that's there. And then as we move forward, whether it's, again, with increase in budget because something has to be replaced or because of warrant articles. Yeah, I think at the end of each month, we should have an update on this.
So do you
Town
want,
administrator, are you okay with that? Does that make sense for you? It work for you?
Yes, wholeheartedly. I agree with its importance. Yes, wholeheartedly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not sure,
Selectman Pacheco.
yeah, I'm not sure if Mr. Mullen knows how much stuff we put on for the March 10th meeting.
I'm expecting a full meeting, Selectman. Pacheco. That is fine with
We're
me.
gonna get our money's worth.
We have a lot of 5-hour meetings, so.
I got some bad news for Mr. Mullen.
Uh-oh.
He's not on the list.
Yeah, not yet.
That's okay. I'll keep it. That's okay. I'll keep it cheap.
Just, Mr. Mullen, just a quick background. Last year, when we were looking at the potential deficits and not knowing where we would be this year, but really worrying about FY22, the decision was made to say to our employees, we will allow you to carry over some time. We will allow you to take your time now, or we're going to pay some time. So that's how this all came about, and that's how we worked through the last fiscal year. So this is the first time we've looked at it for this year we're in right now. So that's why it's good for long-range planning.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, like everyone, I mean, like, and even the organization I've been in at the county, we, I think we got a very late, start on really addressing it at the end of FY21. And understanding how it's affecting us really going forward is important. So I agree.
Thank you.
Sir.
Yep.
Thank you. So I will entertain a motion to take this vacation buyback under advisement.
I so move.
For monthly updates with
You can amend it. Yep, I
With-
accept that.
with monthly updates. Is that okay? My eldest.
Absolutely. The younger statesman accepts that amendment.
Yeah, he actually is. Yeah, my fellow younger elder statesman.
Not by much.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Thank you, Town Administrator Mullen, as well, sir. Next on our agenda, we have an open meeting law complaint, so I'm just going to read it. Give me one moment. I always have to flip back and forth, so it just takes me a second. Okay, so this is from Patrick Higgins from Swansea, Massachusetts, of Patrick Higgins and Associates for the Dayton Board of Selectmen. For specific persons who committed the violation would be me, Brett Zagrafos, PhD. The date would be January 13th, 2021. The description of the alleged violation is the following. The Dayton Board of Selectmen held an illegal meeting with the town's department heads on January 13th, 2021. At 5 minutes, 3 seconds into the meeting, Selectman Goulart began speaking at the department head meeting, quotations, after Dr. Zagrafos had opened the meeting. At 6 minutes and 54 seconds into the meeting, Selectman Ken Pacheco came into the video of the meeting and started raising issues during the department head meeting, again, quotations. The 3 members of the Board of Selectmen did not post this quote unquote department head meeting as a formal selectmen meeting, and therefore the participating by the 3 elected members of the Board of Selectmen constitute an illegal meeting of the Board of Selectmen, since the meeting was not posted by the town clerk. The video of this illegal meeting can be viewed at, and he provides the link. What action do you want the public body to take in response to your complaint? The Board of Selectmen members have to be cognizant that they cannot meet at any meetings which were not posted as public selectmen meeting 48 hours in advance, signed by the complainant, dated February 4th, 2021. The next The next document in our packet is the original posting, which was posted with the office of the town clerk and in all the relevant places, with the Zoom information. And so I feel like that buttons up the issue, but Selectman Pacheco or Selectman Goulart, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I realize that we post all of our department head meetings because the Board of Selectmen, we all attend those meetings. So we've been posting since I've been on the board anyway. I just want to ask a question though. I don't think members of the public should be able to contact our town council and then
Correct.
the town has to pay for it. So our town council should be made aware that they're not to respond to any concerns that any one of the public
Yep.
have to go through us. And then if we feel a need to speak to town council, we'll speak to town council. So I just don't want to receive a bill from town council that somebody from the public has contacted them and spoken.
Correct.
to them. So
Selectman Pacheco, I can assure you, since we established, and I can say actually the three of us worked on this policy together and we all signed it. And it was a policy outlining how town council is to be contacted. And the rules as agreed upon with the three selectmen are that it occurs either through the select board chair or the town administrator. Obviously, if our town council was contacted by a member of the public who may or I don't think in this case was even a Dayton resident, I don't plan on paying that bill, Selectman Pacheco. What the bills that will be paid will be correspondence that a member of this board, which if approved, of course, by the other selectmen, if it was not the chair, or someone who had contacted this board to contact town council. But I don't plan on authorizing any payment for any bill, and I doubt you would either, or either Selectman Goulart, for random people that are contacting our town council. And I don't think Dayton taxpayers would stand for that. Again, I will reiterate that I'm very proud of this board for how transparent we've been. I mean, I can't really say anything else. We started a YouTube channel. We put everything on social media. There is nothing anyone is trying to hide. We're very direct, forthcoming individuals. If you have a question, ask it and we will get back to you. Sorry, Mr. Higgins, I'm not entertaining public input during this. It's a discussion for the Board of Selectmen and not for members of the public. Thank you, sir. Selectman Goulart, did you want to add anything? I'm sorry.
Yes, I guess what confuses me about this complaint is that it is the Board of Selectmen who call a department head meeting.
Mhm.
Department heads don't call the department head meeting.
Because they wouldn't need a posted meeting for that. Is that correct, Selectman Goulart?
I would think that's true. And the fact of the matter is, it is a meeting of department heads called by the Board of Selectmen. The other thing too is, so I feel it's posted properly. I think we followed proper procedure. I also know historically, amongst the three of us, if there is an event where we might be together, whether it's touring the town's boat, because that was a question, or going to some event that we might be there together. If it's strictly an informational meeting where we are not going to be asking questions or taking action, no, we haven't posted it. For example, when we've gone to the awards ceremony for our police officers, we were invited. It was like a social event. And as individuals, we may have spoken as members of the board, but we weren't there to vote on anything. We were there to support and recognize town employees. So we have always been extremely careful. If at least two of us are going to be in a particular place, if there is any question at all that there might be a discussion, we would post it. But I know of no such violations that we have had on any of the events we've attended as individuals or anything else. So I agree. And in all honesty, I think Gay and Gay would either ignore a request from an outside party or just say, sorry, we can't respond. You need to go to the appropriate board of Selectmen or whoever it may be. So I don't see the violation.
Selectman Goulart, thank you for that. And I totally agree. Can I ask you another question? And I felt like I asked Selectman Pacheco, but maybe I didn't ask it directly of you. If we were to receive a bill for a resident somehow getting our town council's email address and sending them emails, do you agree that we should not have to pay that bill?
Absolutely. If we don't, and when I say we as members of the Board of Selectmen, if we don't either individually or collectively ask for an opinion relative to something we're working on or one of us is working on, absolutely not. It can't be billed. And as a matter of fact, I can remember at least twice when something came up that my remark was to town council, and don't bother billing us for that because we're not going to pay for it. And it wasn't billed, but it was something that had not come through the board, but that a question had been raised. They didn't issue a ruling, but there was a response, or there was going to be a response. And that's why I made the remark, don't bother billing that because we're not paying it. Okay, so I agree, absolutely.
Thank you, Selectman Goulart. I have no further comment on this. Mrs. Brady, do you think that you have compiled everything in my ramblings to respond to the complaints?
Yes, yes, I can do that. No problem.
Thank you. And we'll include the copy of the meeting posting
Yes.
with the complaint. Okay, thank you. Does anybody have anything else from the board?
Nope.
Okay. We don't need to vote on anything, right?
We probably should have a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mhm.
I move that we respond to the appropriate authorities relative to the open meeting law complaint, that having discussed this thoroughly, the board does not agree that any violations took place.
Before I second that, I see in the chat room, whatever you want to call it, Mr. Higgins is going to withdraw that complaint.
Oh, sorry. I can't. It's like too much for me to like check everything while I'm running.
If you want, I can read it.
Before you do that, my suggestion is that the motion be seconded.
Mhm.
That can be read as discussion, but I think this vote of this board needs to be on record if in fact that's what his intent is. But I think because the complaint came in, we need to address it.
Sure.
And so
I agree.
I'll
Selectman
second that
Pacheco.
motion.
Did you want to read what's in the chat, Selectman Pacheco? I'm sorry.
The last line is, I have already sent you an email withdrawing this complaint.
Okay, thank you. And I think he also wrote about sometimes the postings are on the website and sometimes they aren't. We can try to be more consistent, absolutely. But again, we do always post them in the places where it's legally per the open meeting law where they're required for sure. But we can work on that.
I wouldn't rely on what may be on the website. The official record is what the town clerk posts. So if I had any questions about whether something was properly posted, I would be in touch with the town clerk and ask the town clerk, clarify, tell me exactly what was posted, okay? Because that's what the record is.
Thank you, Selectman Goulart. Hearing no further discussion, let's call for a vote. Selectman Pacheco.
Aye.
Selectman Goulart.
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. And Mrs. Brady, as always, thank you for keeping track
Thank you.
of everything and keeping us on course as always.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Selectman Goulart.
And I would ask that Mrs. Brady still formulate that response from the board and indicate that we did get the email and the complaint was withdrawn. But just to follow up on this vote so that it's clear, the board did take action and the complaint has been withdrawn, and we document that fact.
Okay, will do.
Thank you, Mrs. Brady.
Thank you.
Thank you, boss. All right. Next on the agenda tonight is, so the Board of Selectmen at a previous meeting, I actually almost called you about this, Mrs. Brady, because I was so confused. I'm like, I swear at the last meeting we did all our budgets. But then I recall that in looking back at our budgets and what we approved, there were a couple changes that we need to make, and they're very minor, but just for consistency, we need to make them. The first change that I found that needs to be made is on our Board of Selectmen's budget 122, account 122, line 5343 is a line of funding for the Dayton Trails Committee. But they have requested their own budget this year. So we can take that $1,000 out. I know it's like not a lot of money, but I just want the figures to be correct before we start meeting and discussing our recommendations. So I was just going to ask that we reduce our total departmental request for this budget by $1,000. Is that
Understood.
correct, Mrs. Brady? Was there anything else in this specific one that I missed?
No, I think that's it. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we reduce the selectmen's total budget as shown on line 5343 by $1,000, and that the town accountant set up an account that will be for the Dayton Trails Committee, and that the $1,000 appear there.
Can we amend that? I think the Trails Committee may have requested more than $1,000. So since the town accountant already created their account, like the
Okay.
tab on the master spreadsheet, can we just do the first part?
Oh, so, yeah, so it'll actually be, Mrs. Brady, that we remove the $1,000 in line 5343, and that the town accountant set up an account for the Dayton Trails Committee.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second, and thank you for being patient, colleagues. Any further discussion on this? And
Okay.
again, I know it's minor, but I just want us, to be consistent. Every penny may matter this year, Selectman Pacheco.
I just want to add that
Yeah.
the Human Rights Commission is also going to be part of the Board of Selectmen's budget. I'm not sure if you've sat down with them, the chairperson yet, but we've come up with a budget, or they've come up with a budget, so we'll be part of the Board of Selectmen, at least for the first year.
Yep.
Budget, so that we can keep an eye on the money.
So what I'm thinking, Selectman Pacheco, is when we get to March and we will have our town administrator, when we have that information from the Human Rights Committee, we can add it into 122 where the Dayton Trails was, or maybe create another line under it. And then we will have to revote the total again. So just letting everyone be aware up front on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any further discussion? And the new total, Mrs. Brady, would be $180,668.77.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. I was actually asking you, but thank you.
Oh.
So $180,668.77. Hearing no, yep, Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is an aye. I'm sorry, I thought I had cut you off, Selectman Goulart. Next is the correspondence that we received from the Human Rights Committee regarding their budget request. I can't recall, I don't think I've received the actual request yet, but Selectman Pacheco, as the liaison to the committee, if you could just let Mr. Cassidy know to get that to me before the end of the month, before the Board of Selectmen starts meeting, that's all.
I will.
Thank you. And I know you already have it, so it's just a matter of it trickling down. Thank you, sir. Next on our agenda, bear with me just a moment. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Was a piece of correspondence from our town accountant, did a little bit of research pursuant to the issue that has been discussed at a previous Board of Selectmen's meeting regarding the Board of Selectmen potentially authorizing use of special counsel by the Conservation Commission in an appeal that they did as a landowner to a parcel of land that abuts Strawberry Fields. I feel like I've encompassed everything. That was the issue in that one sentence.
Yeah.
And now I want to read the town accountant's correspondence dated February 3rd, 2021, to myself, Mrs. Brady, and Mr. Mello. And its subject is Conservation Commission action. And he writes, Brett, Karen, and Charlie, below I've extracted the salient point from MGL Chapter 40, Section 8C, which gives rise to the establishment of a Conservation Commission and its powers. As I interpret what I've highlighted in yellow, it does appear as though the Conservation Commission can pay legal fees. I make this interpretation under the presumption that said legal fees are necessary in the acquisition of property or to defend the town and/or Conservation Commission in a civil suit as a result of land taking by eminent domain. Also, as legal fees themselves are a permissible use of public funds in the omnibus budget, he's an intelligent man. I see no reason why this doesn't extend to the Conservation Commission's fund. Hope this is clearer. Thanks, Chris. And I just want to read the highlighted parts that he wanted to bring to the board's attention. Upon a like vote, a city or town may expend monies in the fund, if any, established under the provisions of this section for the purpose of paying in whole or in part any damages for which such city or town may be liable by reason of any such taking. Money in said fund may be expended by said commission for any purpose authorized by this section, provided, however, that no expenditure for a taking by eminent domain shall be made unless such expenditure has been approved in accordance with this section. Now, bear with me one moment. I have another piece of correspondence that I wanted to read to you. Mrs. Brady, we received an email from, did we receive an email from town council regarding this? I thought we did. I can't find it in my email, but I swore we received something. Maybe we didn't.
I don't recall seeing that.
Okay. I'm not an attorney, obviously, but the way I read this, Selectman Goulart and Selectman Pacheco and Town Administrator Mullen, is that my understanding of this case and this appeal on behalf of the Conservation Commission is that it doesn't involve the acquisition of property, nor is it to defend the town or the commission in a civil suit as a result of land taking by eminent domain. It's a suit as an abutter. So again, not being an attorney, not playing one on TV, not pretending to play one on TV, my interpretation is these fees cannot be used for what the Conservation Commission would intend them to be used on. And I make that conclusion just to clarify, they're not trying to acquire property and they're not no one's trying to take their property. So to me, it's clear, but again, I do not have my Juris Doctorate.
So why don't we get town council's position on this then?
I
Because-
did speak to town council about this. I thought they were going to send us something. Their position told to me, I guess casually, was that the board not approve the use of these funds. They don't feel like the case is strong. So that I guess is their position.
We had some discussion about this today at the stormwater meeting.
Mhm.
My personal opinion is, and what I stated then, which goes back to the meeting we had 2 weeks ago when I asked that we continue this to this meeting. The abutter, the deeded abutter to that strawberry fields is the town of Dayton. It is not the Conservation Commission. Therefore, if anyone was going to file an appeal, it would have to be the town of Dayton, which is the Board of Selectmen. I certainly don't support that. My next thought is, in remembering some of the discussion today, the Concom does have money, but not sufficient funds to hire 2 attorneys. And I explained what they talked about, one to represent the town and one to represent the ZBA, because they would be, it's their appeal that would be, excuse me, their ruling that would be appealed. Now, looking at that first sentence that you read, and think about how many times I have come to the town of Dayton and asked for specific votes that relate to easements and land taking. Upon like vote, a city or town, to me, that means town meeting, may expend monies in the fund, so forth, so on. This section, purpose of paying in whole or part any damages. When I get up and make that motion that is project specific, think about Miller's Lane. We have those other standard motions, but when I get up, I ask the voters to approve land taking, easements, and if necessary, eminent domain. And when I get that permission, there's usually another motion that says X dollars if we don't have a grant money or something set aside. So that first part I believe, would have to be a vote to take this kind of action. I don't think it's a vote of just the Board of Selectmen, or the Concom. Because in that particular thing, they're talking about damages, which is exactly what I stand up and say at town meeting. Please give the Board of Selectmen permission to settle damages and, pay land and do all that stuff. So that's one issue. The other one is that the money in the fund may be expended for the authorized section, but not for eminent domain, which also means a vote of the town body. That's why it is so important when I've gotten up and made those motions that eminent domain is mentioned, because that's a legal action. And each time I've gotten up there, the voters have said yes, because I spell out the project. And that particular vote, as you recall, is only for the particular project that I am mentioning, whether in the old days it was Miller's Lane. Those other two votes that I asked the townspeople, the ones that are on there every year, one of them is minor settlement of damages, like if Tommy has to straighten out the side of a road or something. And the other one is the Chapter 90 money. So those two are always on there, but we have always gotten project-specific votes when you're talking about settling damages, paying easements, and land taking. So I don't believe that this is something that the Concom could do on their own under this. I don't think it applies, and I don't think the Board of Selectmen could do it under this clause. But getting back to what I said to begin with, the town of Dayton, in effect, is the Board of Selectmen, and we aren't taking action to appeal that decision. So as I explained today, I understand the frustration and the feelings, but at this point in time, since this is not the same appeal that happened a few years ago when the town was successful, I really don't think the town of Dayton can take action on that.
I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not steeped in some deep legal knowledge. I'm just reading the words that are here. Aside from your point, Selectman Goulart, which I appreciate and really understand, I just don't think it's a prudent use of funds. So I'm not going to support it.
And I've also said that in the past regarding this. I don't think that the town ought to spend the money for this civil action. So I agree with Mrs. Goulart, what she just stated.
Do we want to make a formal, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Selectman Goulart.
And 2 weeks ago when this came up, the only thing I wanted to know was, number one, did Concom have money? Because I wasn't looking to spend town money. And number two, did they have the right to use it for legal action? And now that these two citations have been given to us, certainly not under these clauses, because it's clear that there has to be a town meeting vote, if in fact they even could pursue it, which I don't believe they can. So my point 2 weeks ago was, let's just find out, get some more clarification. But as I told what I said to the Stormwater Committee today is, I can't support this. I don't see the Board of Selectmen supporting this. And I really think that money that the Concom has would be better spent for acquisition or protection of wetlands, the kind of things that they have done in the past. And the other thing too is there is an appeal by the other abutters, I call it the neighbors group. So that is out there, and if they wish to pursue it, they're going to pursue it. But I don't believe the town has standing in this particular in filing an appeal. So no, I don't support spending it either.
Should we take a formal vote, Selectman Goulart?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we deny the request of the Conservation Commission to allow it to expend town funds to appeal the Strawberry Fields approval.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Before we take a vote, I know we have had discussions on this over several meetings now, so I do want to take just a moment to thank anyone. Attorney, I know I was curt with one of them, so I apologize to that gentleman. All the attorneys, all the board members, staff, council who gave input. We appreciate you advising the board very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
and I will also state for the record, anyone that was there at the meeting, how many years ago that was, when the DEP ruled against our Conservation Commission, I was one of the proponents that said we must appeal this because it is wrong. I can't say that about this one because I don't believe we have standing.
Thank you, Selectman Goulart. I agree. Hearing no further discussion, Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Next, we have a vote to utilize the on-duty Section 111F account to pay for medical expenses in the amount of $1,270, and I will entertain motions relative to that.
I so move.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say, Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
Selectman Zagrafos is an aye. I'm getting better. Next, under correspondence, we have a letter from Nancy Goulart. Hey, I know her. Regarding her decision not to seek re-election. Selectman Goulart,
She's an
before you have the floor. What'd you say?
She's an elder statesman.
Yeah, and Dr. Z, when you become an elder statesman, you'll be just doing this automatically. You just don't have to think about it. So, Mr. Chairman, in order to meet the deadline that was for notification of the town clerk, I sent a letter to the town clerk and the assistant town clerk as a follow-up to an email dated January 28th. This went to Mrs. Medeiros, the town clerk, Mrs. Waller, the assistant. Dear Sue and Pam, as a follow-up to my email today, I wish to advise you that I will not be seeking re-election to the position of selectman. This decision is based on profound events in my family. I realize that I need to take time to deal with these things and do not feel I can devote the time needed to my duties as a selectman. I wish to express my sincere appreciation to the residents who have supported me for almost 20 years as I served either as a selectman or a member of the finance committee, positions that I enjoyed holding and working for the good of the town. I will be available if information is needed regarding any of the project I have worked on, and I hope that I will be able to complete those currently open before I leave office. With thanks and appreciation, Nancy J. Goulart.
Did you want to add anything else? Because I was going to make a few comments.
On discussion, I will, because I'll tell you what happened at the Stormwater Committee meeting today.
Well, that actually segues into what I wanted to bring up, so that's perfect. I will entertain motions.
I'll make a motion that we accept Mrs. Goulart's letter that she will not be seeking re-election.
And I will step down and second that motion. Selectman Pacheco.
Yes, in comment, I want to thank Mrs. Goulart for the service that she's done to the town. We haven't always agreed on the board, but as I tell many people, how boring would the Board of Selectmen be if we all agreed on everything? But I did always respect her positions. I always taken into consideration. She's persuaded me to support her on some things that I thought I wouldn't be supporting. So I want to thank her for all the years of service. She's been my only other colleague besides you on the Board of Selectmen, so it's going to be a little different for me. And I really appreciate her experience, the things that she's brought to our attention, specifically my attention, since I've only been on the board for less than 3 years. Her experience of things in the past that she has done for the town. I know we're not done with Mrs. Goulart. She'll be around, I'm sure. I hope she is. And she's asked if she wants to complete some of her projects. I think stormwater would never be completed. So she may never be even the town. But I sincerely want to thank you, Mrs. Goulart, for everything you've done for this town. I understand why you're making this decision. You've had some tragedy recently that I can't fully appreciate, but I'm sure it's made it difficult. It's made it difficult for you to make this decision, but I think you're making the right decision, Mrs. Goulart, and I just want to thank you for all you've done for this town.
Thank you.
So one line, Selectman Goulart really struck out to me, really stood out rather to me. And it was this one. You said, I realize that I need to take time to deal with these things and do not feel I can devote the time needed to my duties as a selectman. And the reason it stood out to me is because I understand what you mean. You have been, so I will be frank, I've never served a day in this role without you here. It's new territory for me. And I know how much time you put into the work. And I don't mean for anyone who thinks that being a selectman is showing up twice a month to meetings, you really don't understand all the hard work that happens outside of the meetings. It's happening at home. It's happening late at night when you're doing your work, phone calls during the day, coordinating, writing. And I just really respect the work that you've done. I know how hard you work. I know how you pride yourself on your work, just like I do. And I've learned so much from you. And I'm just going to miss you.
Thank you, Brett. I think as selectmen, and I've said it before, it's a 24/7 job. No, we're not working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but you better be prepared because there are going to be long hours and it may not be 7 days or something happens. You've got to be available. You've got to respond. So what happened at the Stormwater Committee meeting today when I stated that, I was not going to run for re-election and that that would be officially announced tonight. Obviously, concern was expressed about whether or not I will continue on the Stormwater Committee. So what I told them, and I'm not looking for a decision, this is down the road. The appointments that we make in June go until the appointments are made the following June. If the new Board of Selectmen wants me to continue in the appointments that I currently hold, which would be Stormwater, representative to the Attleboro-Taunton Housing Consortium, Mass Municipal Advisory, Financial Advisory to DR, and the only one I absolutely positively cannot hold once I leave office is the Bristol County Financial Advisory Board. You must be a selectman to hold that position. But if the new Board of Selectmen wants me to continue through the appointment time in June, I'm willing to do it. If the decision is no, we'll fill those positions, that's fine. I assured the Stormwater Committee that I would help them any way I could, and that we'll try to get as much done as we can, whether it's through the election in April or whether it's through the reappointments in June. I do know that the Attleboro-Taunton Housing Consortium and MMA, DR, Financial Advisory, you don't have to be a selectman to do them. You can serve. I served at, it was pointed out today that Bob Goober and I have served at MMA for over 18 years. So we're trying to go for 20 and get gold watches. But, I even served at MMA when I was on the Finance Committee because they reappointed me each year, and then the Board of Selectmen would sort of confirm that. So as I said, down the road, I'm prepared to work through the election. And if the new board decides that they want me to continue through June, that's fine. And if they want to make reappointments as liaison for the Board of Selectmen, because I've done that before for other projects in town, like the Berkeley-Dighton Bridge initially. But whatever the new board decides is fine with me. I enjoy working with the Stormwater Committee. And as I told them, I consider them to be my team of experts. And if I were told that all of those members right now went away and I had to select a committee, my response would be, I don't know who to pick, simply because all of the expertise that is needed has been put in place by the Board of Selectmen when they said that those individuals, those job titles would serve. So I just thank you very much. I thank the residents for their support. Not related to my duties at the town, but I got to tell you, the response to what has occurred in my family recently has been overwhelming. And the people in the town of Dayton have been super. And I'll never be able to thank you enough. And but anyhow, if you want me to help out, I will. And that's something that can be decided later. But again, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Selectman Goulart. I mean, what can you say after 20 years of service? You can't give us 21? No, I'm just kidding. In all seriousness, Selectman Goulart, I don't know what will happen in the election. People can still pull papers, etc. But what I will say is, if you want to continue as a Stormwater Committee member, I know, and just in speaking to the other members of the Board of Health, people at Old Town Hall, the staff at Old Town Hall, other members of the Stormwater Committee member, I know how much your expertise is needed, how much your knowledge is needed. And if you wish or want to continue serving on that committee, then I will entertain that and I will support it.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Motion?
Yep, well, let's vote on our first motion to accept the letter.
When I first heard that Mrs. Goulart was going to seek re-election, that was my main concern, was the Stormwater Committee. Her knowledge and experience in that field, and she's basically is one of the driving members of that committee and brought us up to the 21st century. So I think I know how I'm going to vote on that motion.
Yeah, I just want to add something. At the Stormwater Committee meeting today, there was a one of those proposals we had. For some reason, one of the individuals who was representing one of the proposals, and it may have been Hunter's Hill, made the remark that they had filed some paperwork in 2004, and they seemed to think that stormwater didn't apply. And fortunately, I was around when we got fined, and that fine related to 3 years that the town of Dayton did not meet its notice of intent, which backed that up to the early 2000s. So as I pointed out to him, although the town of Dayton was in violation of the NOI and got fined, there is no question at all that the rules and regs were there, and therefore they would apply to this project. So that kind of ended that discussion. And sometimes it's good to be able to remember that stuff. But I just, as I said, I am willing to serve. In all honesty, nobody in their right mind would want to take on stormwater.
That was my other thought.
Well,
Don't downplay your expertise.
My committee, yes, my committee agreed with that. And so, Mr. Mullen, I will just say to you that if you want to learn all about stormwater, as long as I'm around and you want to learn, you will learn. And that reference to elder statesman, that doesn't necessarily refer to number of years served. It refers to age. So I just make that clear.
It's a raw total. Selectman Pacheco, on the motion to accept the letter, your vote.
Aye.
Selectman Zagrafos is an aye. Selectman Goulart, will you
Goulart is
abstain?
aye.
Okay, all right.
Unanimous.
It was unanimous.
Yeah.
And next, Selectman Goulart, you still have the floor for an email regarding a Stormwater Committee meeting from January
Yes.
25th, 2021.
Okay. So I received an email from Dr. Z, and it was about some emails he received that I guess some residents had seen the one of the Stormwater Committee meetings, and there were concerns that we, the Stormwater Committee, had violated some of the COVID guidelines in that, and a unanimous vote of the Board of Selectmen about having meetings, open meetings. So I'll just read the response that I sent to Dr. Z. In response to your email of January 28th below regarding Stormwater Committee meetings, what follows is our response. It is clear that the emails you received about the Stormwater Committee meetings are from people who do not know the rules and regulations, and we mean all of the rules and regulations that we, as a public body, must comply with in order to conduct business. I have copied other town officials regarding this matter in case they get emails or calls about alleged violations. We must make reasonable accommodations for participation by committee members. 2 members are hearing impaired and read lips, which is hard to do using Zoom, and access to internet from their homes due to poor reception is not possible at times. We are spaced apart appropriately, but do remove masks if we drink water, or so our hearing impaired members can read our lips. People with hearing aids are not required to wear masks. 3 committee members and office manager work together every day in the same office, so they are a group. There's only 1 laptop in the office. We cannot see plans through a phone, so we have hard copies at meetings. Todd, meaning Mr. Pilling, carries the laptop to different speakers during the meeting so the Zoom viewers can see who is speaking and hear them. Our town's health agent sets up the meeting space and makes sure that the numbers of attendees in person do not exceed the governor's stated limit. He also makes sure we are apart. We use the large TV in the hall to communicate with those who Zoom in, such as engineers. The indoor meetings of the Stormwater Committee are in full compliance with the regulations. The unanimous vote of the Board of Selectmen cannot supersede or inhibit compliance with the need to make reasonable accommodations under the ADA. Regarding outdoor site visits, again, Todd, Mr. Pilling, make sure we comply with those regs. As the governor has repeatedly stated, we must wear masks when in public, which the Stormwater Committee does. Standing on Brook Street to discuss stormwater issues meant we were on public property and must wear masks unless speaking to someone who is hearing impaired, whereupon distance was maintained and a mask was dropped to allow lip reading. Once we left Brook Street and entered private property, we did not need masks. However, everyone kept masks on until they needed to speak or respond. The Stormwater Committee will continue to accommodate any and all persons who wish to participate in its meetings while complying with any and all rules and regulations, including COVID and ADA as they evolve or are issued. We request that since you received emails expressing concern about alleged violations of COVID regs, this email be included and read as correspondence at the Board of Selectmen's meeting on February 10th. Excuse me. It is important that all residents become informed about COVID and also ADA regs as we all continue to perform our duties as elected and appointed officials. And it's from me, but it was actually from the Stormwater Committee, and I did review this at the meeting. They had gotten copies on it, but I told them it would be read tonight. So the only thing I would ask is if somebody sees one of our meetings and has concerns, either email me at ngoulat@comcast.net or contact Mrs. Brady and forward a message, because we'll certainly be happy to explain why we might have done something or not done something. But as I said to Dr. Z when I first got the email, I assured him that we were in compliance, and then I wrote that longer email. So just wanted everybody to know.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to be clear, it's not like we're looking for people who are making violations.
No,
a resident brought it to my attention.
Yeah.
I also felt they should probably reach out directly to the person they think may be involved. Why reach out to me? But anyway, that's why I passed it along. And I respect your answer, and I also understand the individuals with hearing aids as well.
Yeah. I assure you, Mr. Pilling, Mr. Pilling, if he would stop anything that he thought was even getting near a violation, as I say, when we walk into that meeting hall, everything is already set up. You don't move anything. You just find a place to sit, because that's how he's got it set up. So anyhow, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mr. Gale.
Yes, just name and address, please.
This is Jonathan Gale from 22 Waterford Circle. I'm also the coordinator for the town for ADA, everything ADA. And I just wanted to let that person know, whoever that person is, if there's a question about whether or not something they think should or shouldn't comply with ADA law, Title II, or any of the other aspects of ADA at all, they can feel free to reach out to me via telephone or via email. And if I don't know the answer for protocol in some cases, in this case, no one did reach out to us to look for any clarification or protocol. or we would have been happy to provide that to any individuals who have concerns. And I just want to make that clear. If we're reached out, we will
Sure.
do that. If we don't know the answer, we will I will always reach out to the state to get clarification, especially with COVID. When you have public meetings and people who are hearing impaired, and you don't necessarily have a need for cart services or other types of services for someone who's hearing impaired, there may be other alternatives. It may be that the public meeting with public space is the only way to go for lip reading, potentially, or there may be other alternatives that are available through Zoom, such as closed caption and so forth as well. But again, what I just want to simply say is if anybody has any concerns or questions about compliance or the need for that, they should always feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you,
Gale.
sir. I don't think it was that, Mr. Gale. I think the issue actually arose. You know how we upload our meetings to YouTube? And whenever we upload a meeting to YouTube, a thumbnail gets created that like it shows like a picture from the meeting, right? And it's like a snapshot of time.
Right.
And unfortunately, for whatever reason, out of what that 3 hour long or however long that stormwater committee meeting was, the thumbnail it showed was of a stormwater committee meeting possibly having a sip of water. I have no idea, but the snapshot was the person without their mask. And I think that's why someone had reached out to me and inquired about it. So we should probably change the thumbnail, but I think that's what happened, Mr.
Right.
Gale. It wasn't someone's watching all the meetings waiting for an alleged violation. I think it was more just, hey, what's going on at this meeting?
Yeah,
based on the image.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. And I think it was more concern about a COVID violation, because obviously we wouldn't normally discuss that some committee members might have a handicap or have difficulty, whether it's sight or hearing or any of that. It's just that our approach has been as comprehensive as possible. And that's why it was mentioned, because in holding our meetings, really compliance with ADA is a priority. So I thank you for speaking up and offering to help if people have questions, especially, and that may be the case if they see another meeting, they might think and say, well, maybe there's somebody on that committee that has some, needs to have some, I'll call it reasonable accommodation. So thank you.
Well, it's turned out, as I think everyone knows, with COVID, one of the most complex decisions that the state has had to look at is for any kind of public meeting or public conversation, how do you accommodate a person who is deaf, hearing impaired, or needs to read lips? As we all know, a mask doesn't allow for that. So that's been a complexity the state has had to deal with, and the state has issued procedures and policy for that.
I don't want to get too far off topic, but Zoom does have closed captioning, so that should be an option for the committee in the future.
Exactly, and I
know Selectman Goulart, I know you're not, like, you probably don't use Zoom other than these meetings, so I would not expect you to know that. I barely know that. Someone just pointed that out to me. But if that's something that the committee wants to explore, that might be helpful for the hearing impaired members on the stormwater committee, I'm happy to help and get that set up as well.
And I can facilitate that as well if we need to in the future.
And that's a good option, but not if we have plans.
Or site visits.
Plans, meaning, they bring in these big bundles of big long sheets of paper. Yeah. And like I had Mr. Frenette slid a set of plans to me while we were at the meeting today, and it's a huge piece of paper, a whole stack of them, as a matter of fact. But anyhow, I thank both of you for bringing that to our attention also. As I say, our priority is making sure all members can participate. And so this was how we managed to do it. And anything else that comes down the pike, we're certainly willing to consider it.
Thank you.
Mrs. Goulart, just for going forward, whether it's for stormwater or Board of Selectmen or anything else, I will get these specific instructions on how to set that up on Zoom in the future and make sure that gets to Mrs. Grady so that can be passed along if it's necessary.
Oh, I just want to mention one other thing. Today's meeting, we actually, after I said we only had one computer, there were actually two laptops there today, but unfortunately the battery died on one of them. So the entire meeting is not going to be streamed, but we did it as long as we could. So I don't want anyone to think we were something else that we should, but actually one of the laptops died. So anyhow.
If I can speak, I just think
Sure.
that we could have avoided this 20-minute conversation if it was brought to our attention. We clearly made a decision not to have any public meetings. I understand everything that Mrs. Goulart's saying, but if she had brought it to our attention, and we had a lengthy conversation about this, like you said, it was COVID.
Yep.
So I think it should have been, if there was going to be a change in the policy that we voted on unanimously, it should have been brought to our attention. I understand if somebody's hearing impaired, we have to address that. And you may have to meet together. I understand with the plans, but we made a clear vote. And this whole thing could have been avoided if Mrs. Goulart or someone from the Stormwater Committee had brought it to our attention, and we could have, the public could have known that, and we could have known that, because I was upset as well as the person from the public that was upset that they had the meeting. I understand now why they had the meeting. I don't know how those two members that are hearing impaired see, because in this letter it says that the engineers use Zoom. I don't know how the members that are hearing impaired get to see that, but they can't use Zoom at their own house. So I don't know how they can read lips if they're saying that they can't read lips on Zoom. So I just think we could have avoided this whole thing. I don't want to take another 20 minutes, so that's
Well, I think you'll get the last word. But thank you, everybody. There was no vote. Okay. We did also, Selectman Goulart or Selectman Pacheco, did you want to read the next two? You can alternate. Allison, Mrs. Symbalistes and Mr. Rhines.
Yes, I'll read the first one. This is from Allison Symbalisti. To whom it may concern, I am writing to inform you that I will not be seeking another term as public library trustee in Dayton. It's been a pleasure to serve the town of Dayton in this capacity over the last 10 years. I wish the next elected trustee much success going forward. Sincerely signed, Allison Symbalisti. So I'll make a motion that do we need to take a motion?
Yeah, just to accept it.
I'll make a motion that we accept this letter from Ms. Symbalisti.
With thanks and appreciation.
With thanks and appreciation.
Second.
So I'm gonna miss that, Mrs. Goulart. Helping me
Yeah,
with my motions.
We have a motion and a second. Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Selectman Goulart, did you want to read Mr. Rhines' letter?
Yes. Good morning, board. I, Timothy F. Rhines, am not seeking re-election to the Town of Dayton Parks and Recreation Commission. I believe he's served at least 3 terms, which would be 9 years and maybe more. He mentioned this at our Stormwater Committee meeting, just to let everybody know he was not seeking re-election. So I will make a motion that we accept the notification of not seeking re-election from Timothy Rhines for Parks and Recreation, with thanks and appreciation for his service.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Selectman Goulart, your vote?
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco?
Aye, and thank you, Mr. Rhines.
Yep, and thanks and appreciation as always. I'm also Selectman Zagrafos is an aye. Next, we have an email regarding overuse of salt on roads from resident Jeffrey Souza. And this is dated February 6, 2021 at 8 a.m. to the Board of Selectmen. And he writes, good morning. I'm sending this email to the Board of Selectmen, hoping we can fix this growing problem in town. While driving into work Saturday morning, I can't help but notice the exorbitant amount of salt spread on the roadway. Completely understanding that safety on the roads is of the utmost importance to the residents of Dayton, salt on dry pavement is extremely wasteful, bad for our environment, and serves little purpose. This morning, for example, the roads are mostly all dry with exceptions for spotty areas where water may collect in the roadway. Neighboring towns did not treat their roads, nor did Mass Highway that is responsible for Route 138 and Route 44. I'm extremely disappointed in the overuse of salt in this town, and this is not the first and only time this has occurred. I would like this issue discussed at the next town meeting. Does he mean Board of Selectmen or town meeting? And I hope for resolution on how we can better treat our roadways in town. I think he means Board of Selectmen meeting.
I think so.
Okay, Mrs. Brady, do you mind putting this on the agenda? If it's okay with my board colleagues, we did receive a request, so we should honor it. And can you put this on the agenda for February 24th
Sure,
under new business, if you don't mind?
sure.
Thank you. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
All right. And it says, thank you, Jeffrey Souza. So we will discuss that on February 24th. We don't have any acknowledgements. Approval of the minutes. I will entertain motions to approve the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting of November 18th, 2020, and the regular meeting of December 16th, 2020.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Selectman Goulart, your vote?
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco, your vote?
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. And now I will entertain motions to accept for review the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting of January 25th, 2021.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this?
I just want to ask a question for Mrs. Brady. You're going to send this to us because we haven't got it yet, right? These minutes?
Yes, I will send them email.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, let's take it to a vote. Selectman Pacheco?
Aye.
Selectman Goulart?
Aye.
And Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Selectman Goulart, you have the floor for approval of the warrants.
Before I do that, did we do the announcements from Mrs. Tavares about
Oh, that's a good one.
tax aid? Because it's stuck in the back here. And
Yeah, that should have been at the forefront. Do you mind giving that?
okay.
What was that? Was that part of the packet?
I'm not sure, but remember she mentioned it this morning at the department head meeting?
So Mrs. Goulart wrote it down. Good.
Yep, thank God.
Because I don't have it.
We're gonna miss
Oh,
it.
there's
She's
just
the clerk.
there's a little, hey, somebody used one of my red pens. Please add the tax portion to tonight's announcement. So
Yes.
it was in my package. This is for Mrs. Tavares, the library director. I apologize for the onslaught here. Please let me know if there is something that just is not clear. Tax help can be found in a couple of places. For households with an income less than $57,000, contact Citizens for Citizens at 508-679-0041. That's Citizens for Citizens. That's the Fall River office, and I'll just repeat that, 508-679-0041. Also, the AARP Foundation offers tax aid for those over 50. There is no in-person tax help for this service in Southeastern Mass or Rhode Island, but they do have an online form to have someone help prepare taxes or walk you through it virtually. The easiest way to access this help is https://taxaid.aarpfoundation.org. So I'm sure if you go to the AARP website, you should be able to find what's mentioned here, the tax aid. The Dayton Library has Mass State tax forms at the library. Federal forms are currently being sent to the library. Please call the library for forms you need. We will print what we may not have. We will bring your forms to your car as part of our curbside service. And the phone number for the library is 508-669-6421. Upcoming virtual events, please register for all events using the Zoom platform. Wine 101 from Grape to Glass, Thursday, February 11th. Ooh, that's tomorrow, 6:30.
6:30?
Yep, please register with Swansea Public Library, sharing with Swansea, Fall River, and Berkeley, and Somerset libraries. The other one is Build an Expansion Team with the Patriots Hall of Fame, presented by Raytheon Technologies. Wednesday, February 17th at 2 p.m. Please register with the Dayton Public Library. And Unsinkable by James Sullivan, World War II Navy ship, including 3 Fall River sailors. This presentation is Tuesday, March 9th at 7 p.m. And please register with the Fall River Public Library. And the last one is Attracting Birds, Butterflies, and Other Beneficials, Thursday, March 18th at 6:30 p.m. Please register with the Dayton Library. So, Mrs. Brady, do you have this so this can be on the website if people want to check? Do you have these announcements?
I do have it.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the following warrants be approved. 31A-21 in the amount of $104,498.30 payroll. 31B-21, amount of $22,358.66 payroll. 31C-21 in the amount of $201,850.63 accounts payable, all dated January 27, 2021 be approved.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none. Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is also aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the following warrants be approved. 32A-21 in the amount of $101,978.64 payroll. 32B-21 in the amount of $364,233.17 accounts payable, both dated February 3rd, 2021 be approved.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say, Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
and aye, Selectman Zagrafos, and also an aye. And Selectman Goulart, the last one.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the following warrants be approved. 33A-21, the amount of $105,396.03 payroll. 33B-21 in the amount of $94,614.19 accounts payable. 33C-21 in the amount of $313,312.50 accounts payable, all dated February 10th, 2021 be approved.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Next, we have our last public input of the evening. If you have public input you'd like to provide, please unmute yourself and just state your name and your address and be respectful. Hearing none, at this time, if there's no further public input, I will entertain motions to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 3, to discuss the strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. I do declare. A, prepare proposals in preparation for CBA negotiations with the police union. And B, a firefighter union grievance. Town Administrator Mullen, don't be upset if you can't join us tonight. I will apprise you as soon as you come on board officially.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Selectman Pacheco,
Aye.
Selectman Goulart,
Aye.
and Selectman Zagrafos is also an aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to keeping you updated on potential plans for the COVID-19 vaccine administration. Have a
Happy
wonderful-
Valentine's Day.
Oh, and happy Valentine's Day. Thank you. Have a good night. Be safe and be kind to everyone.
Good night.
Night.